Hi everyone, this is Professor Curtis talking to you from upstate New York where the current temperature is 47 degrees. Yikes! Hope it's warmer and sunnier down there in South Florida. Let's talk about negligence. Real quick, we already went through a couple of these. Remember what a tort is. A tort, something that one person does to another person that's wrong, other than a contract action. Right? So remember, when I punch somebody in the face, that's a tort. And remember, we're talking about a civil case, not a criminal case. I know a lot of you want to put the two together. Keep them separate. Try to keep them separate in your head. Criminal cases, cases where the state is bringing charges against you for violation of a law and they want to put you in prison. A civil case where you do something wrong and the person who you did wrong to is suing you for damages. So remember, we're talking about civil cases here. And remember that we're using a preponderance of the evidence standard. Since it's a civil case, we don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that the tort occurred, that the person did something wrong. We just need to prove that it's more likely than not that the person is liable. All right? Now remember, there's two kinds of torts: intentional torts and unintentional torts. We already went through the intentional torts. Remember, that's assault, battery, intentional infliction of emotional distress, false imprisonment, trespass, nuisance, and defamation. We went through that stuff yesterday. I have a funny feeling that we're going to have to come back and talk about defamation a little bit more. A couple of you looked a little confused by some of that. Not a problem. It was the end of the day. We're all tired. Maybe we'll come back to that on Monday. Or maybe I'll even make a whole separate little video for you tomorrow about defamation. Hey, maybe I'll do that. So remember, intentional torts, conduct that is intended to harm somebody. What we're talking about now is unintentional torts. Accidents. Accidents happen. You slip on a banana peel. Okay, maybe you've never slipped on a banana peel. Okay, I've never slipped on a banana peel. Okay, I've never seen anybody slip on a banana peel. I'm told people slip on banana peels. It's okay. It's an accident. I'm walking from ASAF to the Green Center, and I slip and fall and break my kneecap. All right? It's an accident. It happens. The question is whether or not you did something that caused the accident to happen. If I'm walking from ASAF to the Green Center and I just trip over my own 2 feet, well, I'm an idiot. I mean, come on, you got to be able to walk, right? But what if Lynn University allowed a crack to come up in the seam of the concrete? And what if they knew about that seam and they didn't do anything about it? And then I slipped on the crack and hurt myself. Now, one of the things that we are very proud of at Lynn is that we've got some guys in physical plant who are unbelievable. The physical plant is the office that handles all the stuff, all the buildings and grounds on campus. And these guys, they don't allow anything. They don't allow a crack in the sidewalk. And it's not just to make it look pretty. It's because they know, they understand. They want to keep the campus safe. They want to keep us all away from possible unintentional torts. The Humpty Dumpty story, right? You all know it. Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall. Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. All the king's horses and all the king's men couldn't put Humpty together again. Okay, some of you don't know that. Those of you who don't know that story can Google it and maybe figure that out. Anyway, sometimes you fall. Sometimes you fall. Did you have to warn Humpty Dumpty that the wall was too high? Hey, negligence is all about the failure to act as a reasonable, up-to-date, prudent person would act. Do you know that the wall is really high? Do you know that if somebody sat up there they could fall? Do you know that there's a crack in the pavement? Do you know that somebody could trip on that crack? Do you know that there's a banana peel in the middle of your floor? And if so, that somebody could slip and hurt themselves on that? In sports, here's part of the concussion stuff we were talking about. Do you know that the helmet is not good enough to prevent injury and could cause concussions or could lead to concussions? Negligence is all about the failure to act as a reasonable, modern, up-to-date person who is prudent, who is careful, safe, not completely, cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs over the top, just somebody who's careful. The failure to act as that kind of a person would in similar circumstances. Now, I say assault. You say reasonable apprehension of imminent physical harm. I say contract. You say offer, acceptance, consideration, meeting of the minds. I say negligence. You say legal responsibility, breach of legal responsibility, damages and causation. Legal responsibility, breach of the legal responsibility, damages and causation. You have to prove all four of these pieces or elements of negligence in order to win a negligence claim. So what does all of this mean? All right, let's go through this. Let's take an example. Okay, here's your example. Soccer player is playing a game on a recreational field, a field that's owned by the city of Boca Raton, and he trips over a sprinkler head which is popping up through the grass. He trips, falls on his knee, tears his ACL, and then sues the city of Boca Raton. He says, hey, I know you didn't intend to harm me, so it's not an intentional tort, but no reasonable, prudent person who's in charge of a soccer field would allow for a sprinkler head to pop up or to be above the level of the grass. You acted in a way that essentially caused my injury. So let's go through these four elements and see whether or not the soccer player is going to win. First element, legal responsibility. Does the city of Boca Raton have a legal responsibility to keep this guy safe, this soccer player? Well, that legal responsibility can come from two different ways. The first is, obviously, it can come from the law itself. There are certain laws that require certain people and certain organizations to take steps to keep people safe. There are laws that require, for example, certain recreational sports leagues to keep referees safe. There are all sorts of food safety laws that require our manufacturers of food to take certain steps to make sure that our food is safe. So that legal responsibility to keep you safe might arise from an actual law. Much, much more common is where that legal responsibility arises from our own societal concepts of what we consider to be behavior that is responsible. Responsible, reasonable behavior. What is responsible behavior? When you think to yourself, are you a responsible person? Do you consider yourself responsible? Do you always come to a full stop at the stop sign? Do you always yield properly at the yield sign? Are you actually fully responsible? Or do you just kind of sometimes let it slide. You know, we all do, right? The question is, what would a reasonable person do? Not what would the absolutely perfect person do. Not what would Superman do. What would a reasonable person do? You guys are all reasonable people. You guys are all reasonable people. You're kind of regular, normal. You come from different cultures and different societies, different countries, but you all have the ability to be reasonable. Right? Now, remember that this reasonable person standard does not require you to protect absolutely everybody. I mean, do you have a legal responsibility to prevent against injury if you have a soccer field? Of course you do. Okay? But, what if that soccer player, he falls down and he's fine? No damage. Everything's fine. But what if that soccer player falls and he cracks his head against the grass? Now, normally, a soccer player would not hurt himself by cracking his head against the grass. But this particular time, this particular plaintiff has a certain brittle bone disease and breaks every bone in his body by falling down. Do you have a legal responsibility to keep that person safe? Well, what would a reasonable person say? A reasonable person would probably say, hey, look, you got a responsibility to keep some people safe, but not everybody. I mean, my gosh, you can't prepare for that. What is that, a 1 in a billion shot? It's a 1 in a billion shot that you're going to have some player on your field who has brittle bone disease, and if he falls down, he's going to hurt himself by breaking every bone in his body. If you brought 1 million soccer players to your field, one would hurt himself. Is it reasonable to say you've got a legal responsibility to keep all 1 million of them safe? Well, you guys know the answer. A plus B equals C. A is the law. The law is you have a legal responsibility to keep somebody safe. That's the first element of negligence. That legal responsibility may arise from the law, or it may arise from societal concepts of responsible behavior to be determined through a reasonable person's standard. Now, that's A. Now add the facts. B. Soccer player has brittle bone disease, a 1 in a million disease. He slips on your field and breaks every bone in his body. Are you responsible? Do you have a legal responsibility to keep him safe? A plus B equals C, and of course you all know that C equals, I don't know, maybe. Don't you love this class? The second element of negligence, a breach of that legal responsibility. Now, this is very easy to show because, well, as they say in Latin, res ipsa loquitur. You want to impress your parents and friends and family? Okay, maybe not your friends. Your friends will think you're geeky. Maybe your family. Res ipsa loquitur. Throw some Latin at them. Res ipsa loquitur means the thing speaks for itself. Hey, I'm lying on the ground. I wouldn't be lying on the ground walking from ASAF to the Green Center if Lynn University didn't fix that seam in the pavement. Hey, I'm lying on the field here. I wouldn't be lying on the field if the city of Boca Raton didn't prevent that sprinkler head from popping up. The thing speaks for itself. Obviously, that legal responsibility to keep me safe was broken because, well, I'm lying here. That's an easy one. So we've got two elements of negligence here. All right? The legal responsibility to keep you safe and the breach of that legal responsibility. The third thing is damages. You have to actually show real live damage. Okay? I don't know about you guys. Me, I fall down all the time. I'm just walking along and I slip, I trip, I'm a complete klutz. I fall down all the time. I spill stuff on myself, hot beverages, I'm a mess. All right? It doesn't mean I incur damage. You know, what's that song?